Hi, everybody. It's Miss Judy from the Red Bank Library. And today we're going to talk about how to be a foodie. Oops. So we're going to read a book called Foodie Flamingo by Vanessa Howell. And being a foodie is being adventurous and trying new foods, but we're going to read about Frankie Flamingo and her journey to become a foodie. So every Friday at the Pink Flamingo restaurant, Frankie Flamingo met up with her friends, Frederick, Felicia, and Steve. And every Friday, they ordered the same dishes. And here you can see them walking into the Pink Flamingo, and then you see them sitting at the table, and the server is walking around and had just served them for Frederick, braised shrimp, which is lightly steamed. Felicia ordered boiled shrimp. Steve ordered buttered shrimp. And Frankie ordered shrimp bisque, which is a kind of soup. But one Friday, Frankie learned the word foodie, which means someone who thinks of every new meal as an adventure. So you can see her sitting there reading a magazine, Foodie, and obviously looking at pictures of all different kinds of food and thinking about maybe she'd like to try to become a foodie as well. So when it was her turn to order that week, she asked a question. Do you have anything without shrimp? Well, what do you imagine happened in the Pink Flamingo restaurant with pink flamingos that have been only eating shrimp for so long? What do you think? Well, everybody was flabbergasted. They were surprised. Her friend's feathers ruffled. Steve even gasped. But we like shrimp, said Frederick. It gives us our lovely pink color, said Felicia. And what if we try something new and hate it, said Steve. It could ruin dinner. You can see everybody's like, oh my God, what are they doing? What is she doing? What is she doing? So the server looked sternly at her and pointed to the shrimp only sign because that's all they serve in that restaurant. And so Frankie ordered stew and kept her foodie feelings to herself. But it didn't stop there. The next day, Frankie decided to go to the market and she bought a big bag of Brussels sprouts. Now she spent each night that week cooking them in different ways. She steamed them, she boiled them, she baked them with all kinds of seasoning on them. She cooked them in all kinds of new ways. Some bowls were better than others. Whoops, sorry. Some bowls were better than others. So you could see that she didn't particularly like the boiled ones, but trying them made her feel better and braver and different than before because she was eating different foods. So you could see that the steamed ones she liked, and sauteing them in a pan, she liked those. She seemed to like those, but mostly she felt brave for trying new foods, and she felt different because she was eating something different, and it made her feel a different way. Well, beaks turned when Frankie strutted into the Pink Flamingo that Friday. Everybody was looking at her saying, oh my goodness, what happened to Frankie? Are you all right? Asked Frederick. You look a little green, said Felicia, and Steve just stared. Frankie said, I'm great, and grinned through dinner. And you can see that the chefs are looking out of the kitchen, looking at her and saying, oh my goodness, what happened to Frankie? And everybody else in the restaurant is looking at her and talking about it. And the servers are looking at her like, wow, where did this green flamingo come from? So each Friday dinner after that, Frankie flustered her friends. One week she flew in with feathers a yeasty yellow, which means she obviously ate something, cooked and ate something yellow. The next week she was berry blue. She must have had blueberries or something like that. Finally, after she flounced away, purple as a plum, and you can see everybody looking at her like, oh my goodness, what is this? Her friends stayed at the table and they tried to solve the mystery about why Frankie was a different color each week. Well, Frederick said, if shrimp turns us pink, maybe Frankie's eating something else, finished Felicia, because, you know, she's a different color. But how do we know for sure, said Steve. And what do you think they did? Well, Frankie's friends sneaked to her house and spied through her window. And sure enough, they saw her taking the tops off of tomatoes turning them into sauce and salsa, and then they formed a scheme of their own. The next week after Friday dinner, Frankie's friends got together to try her tomato techniques. That's different ways of cooking. They chopped and they chilled and they steamed and they sauteed, which is in a pan, with a little bit of oil you saute. They took turns taking tentative tastes, taking just little bites. Sometimes it was savory, which is more like salty, and sometimes it was spicy. Sometimes it tasted smooth, and sometimes it tasted sweet. Some of them liked it, some of them didn't. And you could see from their faces that some of them, they just didn't like it. They're making faces, and it wasn't just for them. But the sauces and salsas made all of them feel like they had flown somewhere new because they were doing something new and they were eating something new. So that Friday, when Frankie arrived at the restaurant, it was her turn to be surprised. See, they're all red. Everybody's red in that group now. And the server loved their color. And the chef asked for their secrets. Frankie said, "We're all foodies. We're trying new things." So now, because everybody loved the color and was interested in their recipes, Frankie cooks for her friends at the restaurant. She's happy as a hornbill, that's a kind of bird, crafting and making meals of every color that you can think of. Flamingos flock there for the flavors and fun, and the new flavors and the fun of tasting new flavors and all the new aromas and the adventures that they go on when they eat this new food. And you can see Frankie's looking into the restaurant where people are, flamingos are turning all kinds of colors and really seem to be enjoying what they're eating. So the restaurant even now has a new name, and it's called the Rainbow Flamingo because nobody's just pink anymore. You can see all of the flamingos in lines around the corner because the restaurant has become very, very popular among flamingos, and they're all different colors. They're all colors of the rainbow. So Frankie is making some suggestions of how to be a foodie because he thinks everybody should become a foodie and at least try it. So one of the things that Frankie suggests is you try a food you have never tasted before. Can you think of a food, a fruit, or a vegetable that you have seen at home or someplace else but never eaten? Someplace like a supermarket or a farmer's market or a friend's house or a restaurant or visiting relatives for a holiday where you see foods that you have never eaten before. Well, did you ever wonder what it might taste like? Think about it. Well, you can be a courageous foodie like Frankie Flamingo and try it. Just a bite. If you don't like it, at least you tried it. But just a small bite to taste it, because otherwise, unless you do that, you're going to not know what it tastes like. The other thing you can do that's fun is cook a meal at home with family and friends. Preparing and cooking a new food is fun. And it might make you want to try it, just like Frankie Flamingo and her friends, because remember, they went into their kitchens and they tried all kinds of new foods, some of which they liked and some of which they didn't, but they felt really good about themselves and they felt different because they were trying all these new things. So maybe at home, you can cook a meal with family and friends and try the same things. You can also take a food you already like and sprinkle something new on top of it, like a spice or an herb. So here are just some herbs that are maybe people know, spices and herbs that people know about. There's chili powder, which is used in a lot of Mexican foods. There's garlic, which is used in like Mexican foods. It's used in Asian foods. It's used in Southeast Indian foods. It's used in Italian foods. Did I say that? It's used in everything. And very honestly, I love garlic. And I put it in almost everything that I cook, actually, though not sweets like cookies or cake or anything like that. But anything else that's savory and salty and spicy, like vegetables and meats and things like that, I just love garlic. There's also coriander, which is a spice that's used in a lot of Southeast Indian cooking. And there's cinnamon, which though we might associate that with sweet things like cinnamon sugar, it can be used in regular cooking because by itself, without mixing it with sugar, it has a sweet taste, but it's not that strong. Also, there are many more spices, and you can see from that picture all the way on the right. If your friends and family come from different places, they may also have herbs and spices that they use. When you go to holiday dinners and friends, families dinners, you might taste foods that have used spices that you have never tasted before. And you might really like them, but you're not going to know unless you become a foodie and give it a shot and take a bite. Now, here's something Frankie is suggesting that you can do. Close your eyes, take a sniff of the new food, and describe the smell in 3 words. So think about how it smells. And maybe it smells in a way that that it's different. You never really thought that it smelled that way from looking at it. Then you take a bite of it and describe the taste in 3 words. And this is where you become a foodie, because you're going to take a bite and see how it tastes. And again, it might taste different than you expected. It might taste different after you smell it. But is there any difference between the two? Because a lot of times there's not that much of a difference, because taste and smell work together. But once you smell a food, it might make you more interested in trying it. And once you take a bite of it and start to think about describing it, it might make it more interesting to eat. And you think about if there are any differences in any of those things. You can also treat your food like an art project. You can place it on your plate in a new and creative way before you eat it. So here we have sandwiches, I guess, open-faced sandwiches. There's in the middle, there's peanut butter or some kind of nut butter with fruit for eyes and lips and nose, and carrot strips for eyebrows. And then below that, it looks like it might be cream cheese, or maybe it's yogurt with, again, fruit for the eyes and the mouth and the nose and the ears. And then it looks like carrot strips for the hair. And in the upper part, next to the peanut butter sandwich, you could see a sandwich that also is probably cream cheese, where they seem to be using broccoli for hair. And this is a really great way to taste things that maybe you haven't tasted before, if you taste them with things that you have tasted and you know you like. So in the middle, this is a really pretty picture on a plate. It's a sailboat on an ocean. So the water is green leaf lettuce. The boat looks like it's a piece of pepper, red pepper. The windows on the boat look like they're olives, and then the sail is made out of cheese. And of course, there are other things on that plate that come from other foods that you might want to try. The last thing, or maybe just another thing you could try, is putting foods that you've never tasted before on your pancakes, because who doesn't like pancakes? You could make a funny face and maybe include nuts or fruit that you've never tried before. You could try yogurt instead of cream cheese, and maybe some other kind of sweetener instead of maple syrup, and make a design with the fruits that you also have never tasted before, but what you want to try to taste. So just try anything new you can think of that would make it fun to eat a different food. But most importantly, try it. Even if you just have a bite, you're not going to know how it tastes, and you're not going to know if you like it. And you can't really become a foodie unless you at least take a bite. So we want you to spread the word, or Frankie does anyway. She wants you to tell your friends about foods that are different and delicious. And really, you can't do that unless you taste different foods and find out that you like them and that they are delicious. You can check out Foodie Flamingo, this book, in the children's room at the Red Bank Library, or whatever library you get your books from. So I hope that you have enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.